Mic check. Peas and carrots, peas and carrots. Playground. Hi, I'm Ashley Daigle, and this is Advice from the Cheerbrarian. Never heard that word before? That's because I smushed two words together, because I felt like it. This week, we're going to do what we always do. Mix a dollop of advice to improve your life, born from a few of my successes and a boatload of my mistakes, with the book recommendation of the week, unearthed by my voracious love of reading, from self-help to historical fiction and everything in between. Today, we're going to do something a little different because summer is here and it's time to embrace it and the time-honored tradition of summer reading lists. I'm going to share some summer advice as well as a whole pile of books you can pack on your summer vacation. If you like what you hear, and I really hope you do, please, pretty please, with 2 cherries on top, tell 2 people about this episode and send them a link to it because direct word of mouth is huge for a little pod like mine. And now, let's talk books. As I said in the intro, today is going to be a little different. I'm going to give some advice briefly, but we have a whole pile or maybe a respectable stack of books to talk about today for summer reading. So here's my advice. You ready? You got a pen? I want you to write this down. My advice for you is read. I know. A lot of times I come in with like a lot of ideas, but today we're going to get to the basics. I want you to use some time that you have this summer that you can find and carve out around everything else to cozy up to a good book in any format, be it an e-reader or audio or my personal favorite, bound up pieces of paper. I have tried. I go on trips and like I literally for like a 4-day weekend will take 3 physical books. And I know it's ridiculous, but like I'm not going to change and that's going to be how it is. As a child, I adored summer reading challenges at the library. So you would sign up and back in the day, now it's all digital, which I get. I do want to save paper for these books I just talked about, but gosh, do I miss these little paper things to fill out. I remember it would be like a trifold, okay? And then you would write in like the books you were going to read, and then you'd go to the library when you read them, and you'd show the librarian, and then you would get a sticker. Like I have a memory. I can literally imagine walking up the steps to the library because it was on the second floor of this building. There was like a museum on the first floor of my hometown library. I don't know. It's now a different building. But okay, anyway, what was I saying? Stickers. So I remember going up and getting those stickers. And perhaps that's where my love of stickers came from because I'm a huge fan. So I cannot recreate the experience for you exactly, but I will promise you this, okay? This is real. If you set a summer reading goal and you meet that goal and you tell me about it, I will send you a piece of snail mail thanking you for your commitment to reading. Because who doesn't love fun mail, right? Like you get bills, you might get a birthday card, but mail is just not, it's not fun. And are there going to be stickers in this piece of mail I send you? Obviously. Okay. So, what could an adult reading goal be? Here are some options. So, if you want to be ambitious, you could try to read 3 books. So, that'd be one for each month of the summer. That's an ambitious goal. You could be what I would call dedicated, just like read 1 book. Say, especially if you don't read a lot, to say, I'm going to read a book this summer. That's a good goal. Maybe you're coming from a place where you're not reading that much and you're going to be more realistic and say, I'm going to read half a book this summer. That's fine too. It can be anything because here's the thing. Like with all things in life, you are the only judge and jury of this goal or, anything. I'm just a cheerleader. Not that in courtrooms with judges and juries, there are cheerleaders, but you get the analogy. You can follow. A few other ideas, if you don't want to tie it to like a book in particular, you can say your goal is going to be read more this summer than you did last summer. Because guess what? Unlike the horror movie, I do not know what you did last summer. I thought it and then I said it and I was like, why? But here we are. Okay, so you can read more than you did last summer. You can decide, I'm going to read more outside. And if you read like 0 outside last summer, well, guess what? Doing it once means you met your goal. You can decide you want to read first thing in the morning or you want to read the last thing before you go to bed, right? It is such a fun boost to achieve a goal. And so my point with this exercise for you is to make it as achievable as possible so you can get that sweet, sweet dopamine release, which teaches your brain that pursuing goals can be fun which is just helpful in life. So that concludes our advice portion today. We're going to get in to the book portion because I'm not going to let you get out of here without recommendations for your summer reading list cultivated by yours truly. So, what books am I recommending today? Okay. In part one of this summer spectacular book reading fandango phantasmagoria that I have planned, I'm going to talk about books for traveling. And later in the summer, I'm going to come back and we will have some books for when you are staying closer to home. Obviously, I think any of the books I recommend could be good for any location, or else I wouldn't recommend them. So, when I thought about travel, I wanted to come up with some categories. So, we have 5 categories for travel, which equates to 7 books. And you're like, that math does not check out. Listen, I challenge any book lover to make any sort of restrictive list of books that you're going to recommend. A few more will always sneak in. Like last year, my top 3 books, there were 3 books tied for number one. I think there were like 7 books on my top 3 books. I did my best. 7 is what you're going to get. So the categories are bum ba bum, beach, mountains, road trip, festivals, and cruising. We're going to start with what I think is the most obvious category, which is beach read. So, going on a vacation where there is a beach involved is just a time that people think to bring a book because you're like, I'm going to be sitting. I might as well do some reading. What exactly constitutes a beach read is up for debate. Does it need to actually be at a beach? Does it need to be a romance? Those are some things that people take into account, but here's what it means to me. If I what I think makes a good beach book is something that has, in some capacity, something that's over the top. I want something that's a little decadent. I want something that I don't want to put down. And usually I do like there to be like a water element. I just think that's fun. And if we get some romance in there, that just makes a lot of sense. So, I couldn't settle on one book for beach because, like I said, it is like the number one category. So we're going to do 2. The first one is by one of my favorite authors, the absolute master of historical fiction, Taylor Jenkins Reid. And I'm going to recommend her book, Malibu Rising. So when people ask me for book recs, which on occasion people know I read, they'll say, "What book should I read?" If I don't have time to like dig into it with them, because I normally like to ask some follow-up questions and get really specific. If I don't have time, I'm just going to say, "Have you heard of Taylor Jenkins Reid? Go read some of her books." What I think is fun about her books in particular, she's created like this entire ecosystem. There are not sequels. You can read any of her books in any order, but there are characters from some books that dip into the other ones. And so she's just made this world. And I think that's really fun. It's not something I've seen a lot in this like historical fiction genre. Okay. So this book in particular is great for the beach because it is about a absolutely fabulous summer beach bash thrown by the eldest Riva sibling, Nina. So this is like the end of summer huge blowout that she throws every year. Now at the start of this book that by morning, you're told this at the very beginning, by morning, her gorgeous Malibu cliffside beach house is going to be up in flames. That's like how the book starts. But the how and the who is what this book is all about. So she's great at building suspense. So immediately like this party is going to go horribly, horribly wrong. And that's like some of that decadence and like over the topness. This book also has family drama with a capital D, which also stands for Dad, aka Mick Riva, who is the father of the 4 Riva children. He is a famous musician who abandoned his family for stardom. And, the kids have responded to that abandonment and having to like take care of their mom and fend for themselves in various ways. What else does this book have that's fun for summer? Oh, there's a lot of surfing, which beach, surfing, done, check, check. I will say, as beach reads go, though, this book can be a bit of a downer, right? Childhood abandonment, not exactly a laugh a minute. So that's why I wanted to recommend 2 books. So if this is like, it sounds like a good book, but it doesn't quite have the vibe I'm looking for. If you want something that's a little lighter, that's going to have a bit more romance, book 2 is House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. And I'm sneaking in another bonus category, Pride, because it's June, and so it's Pride Month, and so this book is a great one for Pride because it is a lovely queer love story. This book, y'all, just like warms the heart so much. I am in a happier mood about it, about life, just like thinking about this book. It is so funny and fun and charming, and it will uplift you. It is a tale of orphans and hope and also superpowers. Yes, I did just say superpowers. So the protagonist, Linus, is basically like a magical social worker. So he is tasked with determining if children with special abilities are getting the care they deserve. And so there's like this X-Men kind of thing going on in society where they've decided to crack down on magical beings and they have to go into hiding. And like that's kind of a bummer. And so Linus is just this sweet man. He is a by the book guy. He desires a better life for himself, but he really just like goes to work, comes home, goes to work, comes home. He doesn't know where to begin. He doesn't know how to shake himself out of his routine. And so when he sets foot on this island where the children live that he's going to go check on, his whole life changes as he tries to decide like who he wants to be, what might be his destiny. And so you are left to wonder like, is he going to step out of his comfort zone? Will he swoon, find love, and maybe the family he has been missing? Will he? I guess you'll have to read it. And one of my favorite things about this book, one of these orphans, the superpowered orphans, their name is Lucy, aka Lucifer, and so they're kind of the Antichrist. And so he's like an average, like 7-year-old, except he's also the Antichrist. And like he doesn't want to be the Antichrist. He just is the Antichrist. Which, if you imagine like a precocious 7-year-old, but also has powers of being the son of the devil, it gets a little, it goes awry. And the final thing I'll say about this book, one of the taglines I saw when I first read this book talked about Umbrella Academy, the TV show, and also comic series. And so if, like me, you are giddy with anticipation about that show coming back in August, you will definitely like this book. But think of it like if it was, it's like Umbrella Academy, if it was like much cuddlier and like way less violent, but definitely like school, superpowered kids, that sort of thing. So again, that was House and the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. Okay. Our next category is mountains. And the book I will be recommending to you is called Empire Falls by Richard Russo. So, why am I recommending this book in particular? Well, first of all, I wanted to recommend something that came from my favorite part of my bookshelf. So, we have this amazing around the room bookshelf that my husband built. And there is one quadrant of it where I put like all of my most favorite books that I own. I don't actually buy a lot of books. Shout out public libraries, you rule. So if a book is in this area, it means a lot to me that I wanted to own it. And so I really wanted to take something from that shelf and share it with you. And that's where this book came from. Now, why does this work for me for mountains? Well, if I'm in the mountains, what I want to read is a story of hardship, something with more challenges, more ups and downs, something I can really like sink my reading teeth into. Do we like reading teeth? Yeah, we like reading teeth. Okay. So this book in particular is good because it is not a plot driven novel. Kind of like how going for a hike in the mountains isn't about exactly where you're going as much as it is like what you see along the way. So back to the book. This book won the Pulitzer in 2002. So if for your summer reading you want to, read something with some accolades, this one does that. I read it way back in 2016, so I had to go dust off my brief Goodreads review to try to remember this book. So it is set in the town of Empire Falls, Maine, and it used to be this bustling town with textile and lumber factories, but its best times are far behind it, both best times for the town and for most of the people in it. So this is a character-driven story. So there's a rich cast of people. The main one is the manager of the Empire Grill, and he dreamed a lot more for himself. He tried to leave home, and then due to illness and other things of family, he had to come back, and so he wasn't able to make it happen. And so he's got a, soon to be ex-wife that he's dealing with. He has a cantankerous father. He has a teenage daughter that he's trying to help raise, and he's struggling and everybody's struggling, and they all have their own history and their own, situations. Also, this is a weird sidebar, and this is me telling on me. His daughter's name is Christina, and for reasons I don't remember, because I read this book a long time ago, I don't remember, but she goes by the name Tick Tick, which for reasons I will not get into right now, was my nickname in high school. When I say this was my nickname, you know how like if you got a high school graduation ring, you would get like your initials on it maybe? My high school graduation ring says Tick. That's how much that was my name. So I think that probably factored into my appreciation of this book, but that was a digression. I will not be taking questions. Okay, so this is a meaty book, and Russo is the kind of writer that makes you forget how hard writing is. That's how good he is. Okay, moving on. New category. We're getting into road trip books. And I wanted to do two. I wanted to do one that I thought could be, a fun audiobook for the whole fam, and then one that might be more for adults. So the first book I'm recommending is The Color of Magic by Terry Pratchett. And I will tell on myself here as well. I had a lot of trouble. I tried to read this book on paper. I really wanted to get into this series and I couldn't. I kept getting confused. I couldn't follow along. And then I got the audio because I thought my family might enjoy it. And listening to it was a real delight. So what is this book about? So this is the first book in the Discworld series that has 41 novels. Don't let that intimidate you though. And so here's what you need to understand. The Discworld novels take place on a flat circular world which sits on the back of 4 elephants which stand on the back of a giant star turtle. I'm going to repeat that because what? Okay. All the novels take place on a flat circular world. That's what it says. Flat circular world, which sits on the back of 4 elephants, which stand on the back of a giant star turtle. So clearly we're into fantasy here. And it's got the classic elements: wizards, dragons, innkeepers, trolls, journeys to far off lands. But Pratchett takes inspiration from all over the place. So he pulls from classic literature, some fantasy science fiction, mythology, folklore, and he's using this stuff for satire and poking fun of mankind turning the mirror on ourselves. Now, as I said, there are 41 books. It is said you can read them in any order, which stresses me out because I want to do things in order correctly. And the fact that it's just like you can read all 41 however you want. Obviously, the only one I read is this one because it's the first one, because I had to start with the first one. But don't be like me, because you know what? Embracing that sort of situation, just start where you want. That's like what summer's all about, right? Yeah. So, Color of Magic, Terry Pratchett. The second audiobook I'm recommending is Born a Crime, which is the memoir of Trevor Noah, formerly of The Daily Show, currently of being a wonderful stand-up comedian. So when this book came out, it won all sorts of awards for best audiobook ever, as it should have been, because it is one of my favorites. I mean, so Trevor Noah is a performer, right? So it makes sense that him reading his book would be very entertaining because, he's got the delivery, he's got the speed, he's got the rhythm. But the other thing is like his accent is beautiful. And, he talks about growing up and his mom and everybody, in his life, and they all have slightly different accents, but somewhat similar being from the same place. Here's the thing. I can only hear the voice in my head, which is a 41-year-old white woman, which sounds nothing like Trevor Noah. So I think listening to this book, and I'm sure it's great to read it because the story is very compelling, but listening to it, I think really makes a difference. He has lived a fascinating life, and he blends together his own story with the history of apartheid in Africa and what it is to be South African. And so I recommended this more for adults. So I just don't think it'd be as interesting to younger kids. It's dealing with, heavy topics of racism and just, abandonment and violence and things like that, maybe not for younger kids, but for teens, I think it could be great. And there is a part of this book, y'all, that is so shocking and so hilarious. I will never forget. I was driving to work and I figured out what was happening and almost had to pull over because I was like, no, this is not going to happen. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Like, and there's at least one other surprising part in this book that I was just like, how in the world, Trevor, how are you okay? Like, what is happening? So again, my audio road trip and wreck number 2, Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. Okay, we have 2 more categories and 2 more books. So this next category is festivals. So if you're going, especially to a music festival, I have the book for you. This book is called Daisy Jones and the Six, and it is by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And you may be saying, Ashley, you recommended Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid at the beginning of this episode. How are you going to recommend in a list of only 7 books, 2 books by the same author? Listen, I couldn't help. I mean, I guess I could help myself. I refuse to help myself. I think her writing style is perfect for summer. And like I said, she has this wonderful ecosystem where characters from books show up in other books. So Mick Riva, the deadbeat musician, famous dad from Malibu Rising, has a small part in this book. And it's just fun to see. And her writing style is just perfect for summer. Like, you will fall into this book. She's so good at writing historical fiction. You will literally Google things to make sure they didn't happen. So this book in particular, Daisy Jones and the Six, is about a band called, spoiler, Daisy Jones and the Six. And it is, in present times, the band is broken up. It's been many years since they toured together, did anything. And so someone is interviewing them, doing an introspective. So listening to this book, and this one is up there with Trevor Noah as one of the best audiobooks I've ever read. Listening to this book is like watching like an old MTV, like behind the music with a band. Like, there are famous people who do the voices. So Judy Greer does a voice, a wonderful actress. Benjamin Bratt does a voice. And like, it cuts back and forth between characters like you're watching a show. And like, there's a part in the book where it talks about when they go on SNL, and you're like, did they go on SNL? And you're like, no, this isn't a real band. This is pretend. But she's so good at historical fiction, she will make you question reality. Give Daisy Jones and the Six a try if you need something for your ears. It is a true delight. Yeah. Also, I realized after I said that was the 3rd audiobook I recommended in a row. And guess what? That's fine, because summer is like that. Maybe you are having to drive kids back and forth places in the car. You need something to listen to. You're finding time to be outside. You're going on walks. You're at a cookout. You don't want to talk to people. Just put those AirPods in and listen to a beautiful book. And now we move into our final book. The final category is cruising. And I will tell you right now, this recommendation, you're going to be like, really, Ashley? It's real on the nose. And I thought about, like, is this the right book to recommend for going on a cruise? But it tickled me. It made me giggle. So I'm doing it. So the book I'm recommending is called The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. So this is a thriller. So I think summer, great time for thrillers. So this is a book about a woman who has gone on an intimate luxury cruise liner and has an encounter with a mystery woman who she believes has maybe been murdered, but no one on the ship has seen this person or had memory of her. So is it real? Is she losing her mind? Now, I could see how reading this book while on a cruise might have you looking over your shoulder or, afraid to turn the light out at night. But bear with me. I think it sounds like a hoot to have on a cruise. And like, listen, cruises can be fun. I've enjoyed a number of cruise vacations, but they can also be unpredictable in how much you enjoy it based on, the kind of people that are on the boat with you and based on, what the weather ends up being. So, I love some schadenfreude in the books. So no matter what, the likelihood that you're going to be questioning your sanity and looking for a mystery woman you think was murdered on your cruise, very slim. So if you read this book, then even if things aren't exactly perfect, it's going to make you feel better. Also, I think any of the books I recommended, beach reads, mountain, audio, all of that could work on a cruise, right? Because you could be cruising to Alaska. I don't know. I don't know your life. So I hope you have enjoyed this reading spectacular and list of books that I've recommended for summer. Before we wrap up, I need to let you know that I will be taking a little summer vacation of my own. And so I'm going to be taking a week off next week. So you will not have my voice. But what you will have, if you plan to listen to an episode next week, is, 20 to 25 minutes of free time. And you know what I think you should do with that time? I think you should read a book. Of course, that's what I'm going to say. So there will be no episode on the 11th, but there will be another episode on June 18th. And now it's time to say ta-ta for now. So that's it. Today's episode is a wrap. I love a little recap because life is busy, and I want you to have something to take with you. So what the heck did we do today? The unsolicited advice of this episode was find time to read this summer. And if you make and meet a reading goal and you reach out to me, I will send you a letter in the mail with stickers because I am proud of you for doing so. In unrequired reading, I outdid myself with 7 books in 5 categories. For beach read, we have Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid and House on the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. For mountains, we have Empire Falls by Richard Russo. For a road trip, we have either The Color of Magic by Terry Pratchett or Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. For festival season, we've got Daisy Jones and the Six, Another by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And finally, for a cruise, I recommend The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Whale. And remember, I'm going to be taking a little summer vacation of my own, so I will see you next with a fresh episode on June 18th. And please follow and review wherever you pod and join the Cheerberry on Instagram or Facebook by following me at the @Cheerberryan handle. That's where you can see resource links and other goodies and interact with me, which I would love. Now go on, get out of here, read outside, drink more water. Okay, bye.